we interviewed a guy a few weeks ago named Liam Regan. You remember Liam?
Oh yeah, I do. He was wonderful.
He was great, so I edited the interview to include a lot of the references and archival footage that we were talking about, because he and I, obviously, even though we're from different sides of the earth, we share a lot of obscure media together, and I recognize it's a small group of us on the planet that are kind of tuned into quite the stuff he and I watch. But he and I we did a lot of chatting, and we've kind of quick become friends because we have a lot in common. Having learned kind of what he went through to make the Cannibal Blu-ray, I was like, I think I gotta get his other Blu-rays from Refuse Films, because to remind people, he's a boutique Blu-ray manufacturer. And I think my initial impression when I heard, I was like, oh, that's cool. The guy doing Cannibal is doing Toxic Avenger and Sergeant Kabukiman from Trauma. But I was like, well, I couldn't figure out at the time why you would. I happen to have Toxie on Blu-ray, and I was like, I'm not sure. Why would I buy it a second time? Because it has a few extra special features, or like, just what's the value prop exactly? And yeah, he's made it really obvious that you're gonna get like every version of the movie on this version. You're going to get like every special feature from every release. Like he called it the Trome archive. And so it's like, it's an archive of not just the movie, but every release of the movie, which I think is a really cool way to do Blu-ray. And I liked the packaging. I liked everything he did with Cannibal. And then remember on the podcast, he told us, he's like, well, I only have 5 titles out right now. I have Cannibal, Kabukiman, and Toxie. And then I have my 2 movies, Eating Miss Campbell and My Bloody Banjo. And so I was like, well, we're friends now. He's going to watch some of my movies. I'll watch some of his movies. And it was great because I watched his movies while talking to him. So I got like all kinds of insight, and then he watched my movies while talking to me. So we went,
wow.
We pooped back and forth. So let's start with the big one. So here's the Toxic Avenger. Ooh. And I do have to say, because I do own the Trauma version of this. The packaging here is so much nice. You get a slip cover.
Yeah, that looks so good.
Look at that. And it feels so nice. He must have this artist, because they kind of, there's, I now realize there's like a pattern to the way, the graphic design for Refuse Films. The history of Toxic Avenger releases, the first movie, almost deserves a similar documentary to the one I made for Cannibal. I won't do it, I promise. However, I did tell Liam, if you ever release Tromeo and Juliet, I will make a documentary about Tromeo and Juliet, and you're going to put it on the Blu-ray. Well, I own it on Laserdisc now, and I watched it again recently. I love it. I fucking love it. I thought for sure I had outgrown it. It wasn't going to make sense to me. It was going to be from a different time, when I was young, or, from the 90s or whatever. Yeah, there's, to a newcomer, you might watch that movie and be like, this is weird, I don't get it. Now that we know James Gunn very well, if you're a James Gunn fan, it's like, I think it's a great movie. Because it's not technically directed by James. It was directed by Lloyd, but James was there the whole time directing. And I think Lloyd, he kept introducing all this, like, very immature kind of B-movie, slapstick, fart humor. And then James has this kind of, like, it's taking itself, like, the romance and sex in it take themselves kind of seriously at times. Some of the performances, like Sean Gunn is very much in the movie, and he's, like, excellent in the movie. There's a character named Murray. He's supposed to be Mercutio from Romeo and Juliet. He's played by this guy named Valentine, who was a James Gunn friend. He gets an axe to the head mid-movie, spoiler. He's about to die, and it's obviously rubber, the thing that's in his head.
Yeah.
But his eyes are bloodshot. He's got tears in his eyes. He's looking right at Tromeo. And he goes, when I was a kid, right? I stepped on a nail one time. It went right through the top of my foot. I thought nothing would ever hurt worse. I was wrong. And then he goes, hey, I got to go soon. Can you just do one last thing for me? Could you kiss me goodbye? He wants to like kiss Romeo on the lips, and he you can tell it's like he's completely in love with him. And this was not set up anywhere else in the film. He suddenly is like, "Can you kiss me goodbye?" And he's like, "Murray," and he goes, "This is my final fucking request, man.
This is my final fucking request, man."
The soundtrack is incredible, of course, and yeah. So I was like, you got to put that out because it's Liam's favorite movie. I was like, you got to put that out. But back to Toxie. The Troma one that I have from, I don't know, 2014 probably, is 720p.
Oh.
And here's what I've learned, EJ. This is very, very important, okay?
Okay.
I've been trying to sort my way through this for about a month. Liam mentioned on the podcast that Troma movies are shot in 4:3. Lloyd Kaufman says, here at Troma, you get more real estate at the top and bottom so that you can see more butts.
You can see more if you see more in the foreground and more in the background. And you can see more butts if you happen to have butts in the...
So he shoots them in 4:3 prior to whatever movie it was. I think Poultrygeist was shot intentionally widescreen. But the theatrical exhibition of them, even back then, was in widescreen because theatrical screens are widescreen.
Right.
So they were intentionally cropped to be widescreen. So they were shot wide enough in 4:3 to be cropped properly. So you're left with this problem of which one should you put on the DVD. Now, my answer is the 4:3. I think that's how it was shot. That's how it was released on DVD. That's obviously the way to go. But like when they started releasing laser discs, he would release Tromeo Lloyd, and he'd be like, "We're finally going to show you the original theatrical version of the movie. It's in wide because widescreen was all the hotness for a while."
Romeo and Juliet has been lovingly remastered and refurbished at the request of our fans so that it can be viewed in the original theatrical aspect ratio, the 185 to 1 aspect ratio.
So Lloyd doesn't care. He's not a film purist. He'll show it to you any which way he wants, and
it's all marketing. Yeah.
it's all marketing. So in like 2005, he put out a Toxic Avenger version called it was in Tromorphic, and that one looks like total shit because somebody just literally took a 4:3 DVD and then they punched in, and it looks like fucking ass. No, they didn't take the time. Whereas a few years ago, there was something called like the 4K Tox box or something. And somebody took the time to scan the original film in 4K widescreen. That's on this version. The Japanese version is on here too, which is like lower res for sure. And then the original DVD version, which is called the director's cut, is on here. What's not on here, and what does not exist, and this is frustrating for me, is a 4K film scan of the 4:3 version of the film.
Oh, really? Oh,
that does not exist. Now, Liam's not going to put that out because Liam is not Vinegar Syndrome. He doesn't have a film scanner. He's not, generally his Blu-ray releases are going to either like the Troma offices and finding original like tapes or original digitizations of stuff, or going back to old DVDs and trying to find the highest quality version without doing like actual film scanning. But still very cool. And I did rewatch the movie in 4K on this plasma TV. It's a fine. I shouldn't say 4K. It was scanned in 4K. It was presented in 1080, but it looks great. Liam was a little bit worried about it because some shots are crystal clear, some have like some film grain on them and scratches, and others are just like out of focus. And he's like, I'm pretty sure they just shot it out of focus on some of these shots.
I'm sure they did.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't notice if you're watching it on a VHS on your TV.
So same sort of thing with Sergeant Kabukiman NYPD. A movie that I have an appreciation for as a Troma fan, I suppose, but I just personally, I never was like crazy about this movie. Yeah, I like it in the scheme of Troma. Obviously, Kabukiman himself has a legacy in Troma. Oh, interesting fact about this movie. There was a PG-13 cut of it.
Oh.
So they made a PG-13 version of Kabukiman, and that's on here too. And it's a similar sort of thing where there's a 4K scan of the film and it looks really awesome, but it is widescreen when the movie was shot in 4:3. So then we've got Liam's two movies. We've got Banjo. It was originally released with the title Banjo, and we have Eating Miss Campbell.
Okay.
So starting with Banjo, it's about kind of a disgruntled office worker who has a boss who treats him horrifically, who cuts his penis accidentally while stringing a banjo on the toilet. He ends up kind of conjuring a Drop-Dead Fred-esque imaginary friend who, with him, they go on killing sprees, especially against his boss and the workers there. So this is Liam's first movie. I think for a first outing, like he's definitely got an eye. I noticed like he doesn't have hasty visual setups. He tends to like take a moment to get some foreground, get some depth. I think most notably on this disc, he has making of documentaries on here, and they're like 40 minutes. And Liam at that time was like a straight up like emo, like big time, like goth emo. The hair is all matted black and he's sad.
When did he make the film?
This would have been 2014, 2013, 2014, I think. Yeah. So around the time I was doing Having Fun Up There, actually. Here's the outside of the slipcover. So what's cool about his documentaries, there's one on Eating Miss Campbell too, is he tries not to shy away from, the things about the making of the movie that didn't go well. And it seems like what happened was he made a short and then he was able to crowdfund, I think he said $5,000, and he was able to, with credit cards and other self-financing means, he was able to do another 10. So he made this movie for $15,000, or pounds, I should say. Pounds. 5,000 of those dollars went to the cinematographer who also played the imaginary friend guy, and his wife was supposed to be the producer. And, I'd say buy the movie and watch this for yourself to get a front row seat of what happened. But basically, this dude decided it was his movie.
Oh.
And it's like very much Liam's trying to make a trauma movie, and
He's too emo to stop it from happening.
If I had the fucking time, I really don't.
I agree. The schedule is shit.
So forget that. We know we haven't got the time, so let's work together instead of everyone second-guessing everybody.
That's the impression I got, was that on set he was feeling kind of like a little overwhelmed at times, or a little bit like shouted down or something like that. And, he's battling the logistics of making a movie in the first place. He's got his own money on the line. He said at one point, the dude actually barred him from being able to be part of the edit at one point.
What?
Yeah. I was like, that's like being like, no, you're not, I'm fucking your wife right now. I'd break that door down and kill him.
Yeah, there you go.
That's my movie you're editing in there.
Yeah. That's my movie you're editing in there. Get your dick out of my movie.
Is that my daughter in there? That's from, what movie is that? Mystic River with Sean Penn.
Oh, yeah.
His daughter's dead, and he's like, is that my daughter in there? Is that my daughter in there? Is that my daughter in there? No! That's how I would feel about the edit. But yeah, while I was watching it, he said, I haven't seen the movie in a little while, but he was like, you're kind of, he said, how you feeling about it? And I was like, it's good. There's a lot of people yelling in each other's faces in this movie. There's a lot of just like a pissed off guy screaming at somebody else.
Oh,
and
wow.
he was like, yeah, you're right. It's really melodramatic. And yeah, because the movie does culminate in somebody shooting up his office. And, so he was like, I guess it is kind of, I said, maybe you were like George Lucas. You were going through a divorce at the time. And
we decided to go darker. Part of it, I guess, was I was going through a divorce at the time and I wasn't in a good mood.
So then this one, he told me went much, much better for him. Not without its small dramas. There was an assistant director on this one that seemed to quit halfway through. He felt like Liam wasn't communicating with him enough or something like that.
And they just kept it going.
What's coming? Sure. I don't know. Well, you ask me and I'll tell you. Well, I do ask you and then I'll try and give you something else. Then that's because the shot changes. Because the shot changes. Okay, well, can you tell me when it changes? Sure. All right. Excellent, yeah. That's cool. Just would like to know.
First of all, I would say just a way better movie in general. It's clearly lessons learned and the cinematography. He shot this on the Arri Alexa. He shot the other one.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, this was shot on the Arri Alexa.
That's a movie camera.
Yeah, and it looks like a movie. Like it does. They took the time to make this looking. So it was made for $60,000, which I think a lot of it was self-financing. And I asked him, I said, did that ever work out? Like, you're taking a big risk putting anything on a credit card. He's like, these movies have completely paid for themselves. And then some. He's like, we're doing okay. So this was actually, Eating Miss Campbell was made as a trauma movie, from the jump, I believe.
Wow.
It's got the trauma spine on it. But, trauma obviously let him release his own movie, which is really cool. The log line here, if you ask somebody what's it about, the answer is it's about a vegan cannibal. Like, perfect. It's like, it's kind of instantly funny. Some of the artwork there. Yeah, so this one also has a great making of documentary. I think Liam was very much like comfortable in his own skin by this point. This was 2000. Well, they started to shoot it during COVID, and then they had to shut it all down, and then they weren't happy with some of what they shot, and they went back, and it went through a whole journey of getting the movie made. Yeah, in a lot, so it's kind of like in a lot of ways, a parody of like 90s high school movies. And I think in a lot of ways, it achieved what Troma was trying to achieve with Return to Nukem High. It was trying to do some similar stuff. And I think this has a more cohesive, singular vision of what the movie's supposed to be. When it comes to like fake, silly Troma violence, he nails it. There's squibs in this thing. There's people eating each other. There's all kinds of good stuff. I'd say the performances are pretty much good across the board. There's some people in it I know from my travels in the Troma world. I would say like in 2025, if you're like, I don't know, like the new Troma movies even come out? Like is the day of Troma dead? I think Liam is like kind of keeping it alive.
Yeah, keeping the flame going.
Yeah. Like, and I think he has elevated it some. It's he shoots these in the UK and yeah, we talked a little bit about like, would you ever want to write something together? Would you, he's got remember that disc rot thing that he was telling us about?
I have a sub-label called Disc Rot, which is going to be putting out like kind of DIY shot on video films, but marketed as like the bootlegs.
He was saying that like maybe Abo should go out on that disc rot thing.
Oh,
that'd be fun. He really liked Abo. He said he can't get Abo out of his head.
I remember you sent me a link almost sheepishly when we were first dating, and you're like, oh, you can check this out if you want. And I like watched it, and I remember responding very positive. And you're like, oh wow, you get it. That's great.
Thank God.
Thank God.
It's a challenging film in some ways. Well, I think there's the way I put it to Liam was, I think that there's immature trauma and there's like mature trauma, and probably like that's best exemplified by like Tromeo is mature trauma. So anyway, so that wasn't the end of the shit that he sent me. He sent me something, EJ, that I'm like, this is one of the best things I've ever been sent in my life. Okay.
Wow.
Remember the cannibal doc that I made?
Of course. How could we
Remember
forget?
I was like, all right, I'm going to go over every single release of Cannibal the Musical. From the VHS to the DVDs to the UMD to the Blu-rays, all the way up until now. And then I've got some nice fans that sent out some soundtracks and the single and all that. I always kind of knew there was one missing, but I never expected I'd have it. And that was the Screen Edge version of Cannibal the Musical, the one from before Troma acquired it, when it was released only in the UK. And I think Trey and Matt made like $100,000 off of that sale in the UK. And that's when the guy from Primus there, that's the first time he saw it. Liam got his hands on it and sent it to me.
Oh,
I have it.
It's called Alfred Packer.
It was not yet called Cannibal the Musical. This is Alfred Packer the Musical on VHS, a UK VHS, so I can't play it on any of my. But maybe I'm inspired. Although a digitization of this exact VHS is on his Blu-ray anyway.
Yes.
It looks it looks like somebody cut it out, out of computer paper. I mean, it definitely looks like shit. There's a Film Threat review on here. I was reviewed by Film Threat. It's actually Frank years ago. It says, "You will leave the theater sick from laughing. A first-rate family adventure," says Sneak Preview CNBC. "A sing-along story of gold cannibalism and a simple man's love for his horse." Screen Edge. It's got Screen Edge's old address on it. Screen Edge, P.O. Box 30, Lytham, St. Anne's. And their slogan was "Nothing like Hollywood."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I just think this is one of the coolest. This is one of the coolest things I've ever been sent. I can't believe I have this, because you can't go on eBay and get this.
No.
And then he sent me a bunch of like this Alfred Packer sticker that like Trey I think drew. Sort of cool Troma stuff. Kabukiman. I really like this one. Movies of the Future.
Yeah.
The Troma Inc. logo. A beautiful. Didn't Toxie just make a great cartoon character?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, almost an unexpectedly good cartoon character.
I've got the video game going back there.
Yeah, Toxic Avenger.
That one, the Genesis one. None of them were good, but the Genesis one was by far the best one. He's got he always like sticks in these leaflets into all of his releases. You can buy some shirts from him too. So he said, "Frankie, thanks again for comparing the Refused Films Blu-ray of Cannibal and inviting me on the Red Cow Arcade podcast to discuss the release, but also an opportunity to geek about Troma DVDs and restoration. I hope that you enjoy the rest of the Troma Archive Collection Series 1 and the Bloody Banjo saga." I should mention that too. Eating Miss Campbell is a sequel I guess we could call it, to My Bloody Banjo. It's in the first act, they basically reference all of the events from My Bloody Banjo, but it's not as though one directly succeeds the other. It's
like Kevin Smithy type thing, where
shared universe type stuff.
Shared stuff happens.
And then he sent me some T-shirts.
Ah.
A My Bloody Banjo T-shirt with this is, by the way, this is the guy who caused them all the fucking trouble.
It's 4 hours I've lost today, and I've got to shoot your fucking finale in that room. The more and more stuff I'm shooting, and the thing is, I get it in the fucking neck when we're in there tonight, and it's come on, Damien, come on. Enough
Table
for the camera.
in the kitchen upstairs.
Please, yeah.
So, it's been a long time since I've worn a graphic tee of like an independent film, and I'm kind of here for it, man. Can I do another quick show and tell?
Sure.
Another fan sent in some shit. Hey, Frankie, thank you again for giving these guys a good home. He sent me some laser discs. We appreciate all the hard work you and the rest of the Red Cow team put in for our entertainment. Sometimes sitting down after a long, stressful day and watching a new Red Cow arcade clip, What's in John's Car, or a couple of fellas eating mac and cheese is all me and the family need to unwind and forget whatever nonsense happened that day. Sincerely, Kevin, Jenna, TT, and Isabella. So what did he send? One is nice. I do already have it, but I said, yeah, send it in. I'll give it a good home. It's Empire Strikes Back, right? Maybe I'll give this one to you. You have this one. You put it up on the wall in the basement.
I will take it.
But the other one is why I said yes. It's the Ewok Adventure. The Battle of Endor. I was like, well, that I want.
I would never have guessed that would have been released on Laserdisc.
Right? And yet, it makes perfect sense in a weird way. In some ways, I feel like nothing was released on Laserdisc except for this. I like this kind of sun-bleached Wicket on the back.
Oh, I was Marketplace is now sending me Laserdiscs listing. It's probably listening to us.
Listening. Somebody
was selling a bunch of X-Files Laserdiscs, and I was like, dude, that might be kind of fun.
That would be fun.
And on Discord right now, like, people are showing us an auction for David Lynch's Laserdisc player. Yeah. And it's currently on like $2,000 bid, and I'm like, should I bid on that?
You're like, on the one hand, ridiculous. On the other hand, it's not that much money for David Lynch's Laserdisc. But yeah, at the same time, like, well, what do I care if it was in his fucking house?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a disc.
Get real.
Yeah, like how would you get that valuated? Like if you wanted to sell that 10 years from now.
No,
like, that's not David Lynch's.
You could just buy a Laserdisc player and say, it's David Lynch's.
Yeah, sign it yourself. Years ago, we were on the podcast and I talked about the Ewok Adventure movies, and just as a quick recap, they're fucking crazy. They've really got very little to do with Star Wars in the scheme of things. It's very strange that the biggest movie franchise of all time decided that like this was a good follow-up, like basically a Sunday afternoon made for TV movie where the Ewoks look a little worse than they ever have, and they start talking English because Wicket starts to be like Starfighter. He starts like talking.
Star Cruiser, great. Yeah, that's it. Don't you have a Star Cruiser? Star Cruiser.
But the first one, the Battle for Endor with Wilford Brimley, and Warwick Davis, he comes back to play Wicket. It's a bit more like Lord of the Rings-ish. It's a bit more like they go on kind of a quest to save the parents of these children, and along the way they each kind of get like a little bit Wizard of Ozzy, and it definitely has like a Ray Harryhausen kind of like stop motion monster of the week. They're kind of cool. And the second movie, whatever the hell it's called, I remember in the opening sequence, there's two children in the first movie. There's like a little girl and her older brother. And you spend the whole movie saving the parents. And in the first fucking minutes of it, the parents and the brother dead, killed by some villain. And then the little girl she's like, oh no, they're gone. And they really are fucking gone.
They're gone. No, they're coming back.
They're gone.
I thought nothing would ever hurt worse. I was wrong.
Subscribe to Red Cow Entertainment on Patreon for full episodes every other week.